By far, one of the biggest issues faced by couples. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking finances. No, that's one of the issues. Child rearing, that's another issue. But by far, one of the biggest issues faced by couples is that of communication. At least that's what they say. So today I want to talk about communication 101 and the things that you can do to learn to communicate effectively with your partner. Now, you have to consider a lot of different variables when you talk about communication. The variables include personality differences. Remember, you're not the same people that got married or that came together. As much as you want to believe that you have a lot of similarities or that you're very simpatical, the truth of the matter is you're not the same person. That's rare. I mean, you talk about twin flames and people who have that connection and who are like one side of the same coin or both sides of the same coin. That's not the norm. That is a rare occurrence. So you have to take into consideration the fact that you and this person that you chose to join a unity with, whether as a couple or a partner or a spouse, that this person has their own idiosyncrasies, they have their own mannerisms, they have their own thought process, they have their own ideas, and they have a lot of issues that can be derived from their childhood or their past or past experiences. So taking all of that into consideration, then you can approach communication differently. Another thing that you need to consider is the fact that you may have totally different communication styles. You can be direct or indirect. You can be passive or aggressive. So understanding your communication style is also key or a key factor in helping you to learn how to communicate better. Am I making sense yet? Are you getting the understanding that it's not just as simple as opening your mouth and speaking and the other person saying, oh my God, you get me and I get you? It's not that easy. Another factor is that a lot of people bring a lot of defense mechanisms into communication. People are defensive, people are self-critical or critical of others. People can be condescending. People can, stonewall and pull away instead of engaging when they're cornered or when they feel cornered. Because a lot of times it's more about how you feel rather than what's really going on when you're communicating with someone that you vow to love and someone that you think loves you. These are all things that affect communication. So I want to give you some tools on how to effectively start the process of communication, because communication is an ongoing process. You don't just start communicating well, you wake up, it's like a child doesn't go from creeping to walking immediately upon birth. It's a process, it's stages. Everything takes time, everything takes development. But a lot of people also bring impatience to the aspect of communication. You're impatient with your partner because you're impatient with yourself. And that level of impatience translates into the communication. If you're not patient enough to hear what the other person is saying, how can you effectively have a conversation or communicate what is happening in your relationship? The other person doesn't feel heard because you are impatient with the other person or with their inability to communicate the way you expect them to. Patience is key. One of the things that I believe needs to be done in order to communicate effectively is to acknowledge that there is always room for growth in communication. Everybody doesn't have to be right. Everything the other person says, you don't have to take personally. I know because I've been in situations where I've taken things personally, or the other person I'm communicating with has taken something that I didn't intend to be personal, very personal. Have you ever been in those situations where it goes really bad, really fast? Like you're starting here and all of a sudden you're over there and you're like, what happened? You totally misunderstood what I was about to say, or you misunderstood what I was saying. That's not what I meant at all. In those moments, do you think that you're wrong and that the other person is right? Or do you feel the other person is wrong because they don't understand what you're saying? And that brings us to another aspect of communication, which is being clear. being clear in what you're saying and what you're speaking about. And is that always achievable, especially when you're passionate about something or you want to convey something in a timely manner or a fast track manner? No. But in order to be clear, you need to understand your audience. You need to know who you're talking to. People in relationships do not take time to analyze the other person. They have expectations that are not met. And those expectations are not met because the expectations are generally unrealistic. You're communicating with someone and you're having ineffective communication because you're not thinking about how that person is communicating with you as much as how you want to be communicated with. Let me say that again. A lot of times communication goes awry is because the person who feels that the other person is not communicating effectively is actually in their own feelings, in their own state, and they expect the communication to go a certain way. So they don't even deviate from that. And therefore, everything goes helter skelter. How about taking a pause? How about taking a breath and just listening to the other person instead of trying to hear what you want to hear? That's hard. Listening to the other person instead of trying to hear what you want to hear them say is not as easy, and it takes practice. The second thing you can do is learn to listen without distractions. I am amazed at this world that we live in. I saw a lady the other day walking down the street and she had a baby in the carrier and she was on her cell phone. And I was thinking, now, neither one of them are learning any lessons about tranquility or peace. The baby's first experience is the telephone and hearing somebody constantly talking. So you have to think about how your actions are affecting the other person. When you're trying to communicate effectively with your partner, one of the things you need to do is put down those things that may distract you from actually hearing what they're saying or listening in the first place. Put down your telephone. Leave your telephone in the drawer at night, in the nightstand, not in the nightstand, the furthest drawer away from your bed. Leave it downstairs if you have a house that is big enough so you can leave it downstairs. You don't leave it in your car because then all suspicions get all churred up. But put the distractions down. The distractions could be your telephone, television, talking to other people, your children. Make sure that when you have something very important to speak about to your partner, that there are no distractions. There's nothing distracting you from being able to convey what you're saying, because distractions tend to negate the whole essence of clarity. So eradicate the distractions. The next tool is be committed to the process of individualistic growth. If you commit to practicing the art of listening effectively, that can only add to your relationship. Most of the time, and you see all the videos I have on here, is not me, it's you, and you thinking it's the other person's fault. So therefore your investment is minimalistic because you've put it all on the other person and negated the whole aspect of personal accountability. Yeah, don't do that. If you're in a relationship that you care about, that you want to grow, that you want to develop, and you want communication to get better, then you have to invest in yourself. You have to bring your best self. You heard about that before. This is nothing new. You have to bring your best self to the relationship. When communication is an issue, you have to find out what about you is hindering that communication. What do you need to do to foster better communication and bring that to the table? And I know what some of you are saying. I'm the one who communicates effectively. It's the other person who's not listening. Okay, whoa, horsey. Here's what I'm saying. You cannot be responsible for somebody else's behavior, but your behavior and your ability to study your partner's behavior can help aid in helping them to communicate more effectively. So you need to be committed to the prospect and the aspect of personal growth and learning how to communicate more effectively or listen better. The next thing is be committed to being a part of the relationship growing. So many times, the key to ineffective communication has more to do with one person checking in and the other person checking out. Some people, when you've been nagging them, who wants to listen to somebody who nags them continuously? I mean, there are reasons for nagging, but nagging doesn't have to be the only option you have to communicate. So you have to be aware of the things you're doing that is causing your partner to check in or check out of the communication. If the person is not listening to you anymore, it's because you've lost them at some point. Take time out, ask the right questions. You know your partner. If you study them, you know them better than they know themselves. A lot of times that can work in your favor and not in your favor. But ask questions, set the stage, set the right mood, set the right tone. It's not going to go right every time, but we're trying to get it to the place where we're practicing. Everything worth having takes time and it takes practice. So being committed to the growth of the relationship means that you're invested in making the communication better. But remember, you have a lot against you sometimes. Personality differences, communication styles, defense mechanisms, which is a big one because a lot of people get defensive. And when you get defensive, you tend to shut down. And most people, when they shut down, they get defensive, they tend to stonewall and they tend to pull away from the conversation, or they tend to not be engaged in the conversation because something you said triggered them to the point where they're not receptive. Recognize when the person you are communicating with is in a non-receptive mood or mode. If you're not receptive, then they're not going to hear what you're saying in that moment. So pay attention. You can say things like, okay, this may not be a good time. And I can tell that this conversation is not, is not going to go over very well right now. When will be a good time for us to talk? Let's set a time to talk. Let's set a time without distractions so we can hear each other and so we can benefit from effective communication. That's all I got to say about this so far. And there's a lot more, but I just want to give you a few tools today to help you. It's communication 101. These are things that will help better your communication with your partner. They will help you to make some headway. And more importantly, don't make it all about you. If you're in a relationship, it can't be all about you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be important. I'm not saying there are not moments you should put yourself first. I'm saying when it comes to effective communication, the communication cannot all be one-sided. It has to be a dialogue. It has to be reciprocal, and it has to be received. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for coming by my YouTube channel. Thank you for visiting. Thank you for continuing to like the videos. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for telling others about what I'm doing here. It is because of you that I keep on showing up. If I don't have anyone to talk to, maybe I'll stop talking. Have an amazing day. Bye.